What happened on a dirt racetrack in upstate New York over the weekend was tragic. A young man emerges from his car and walks into the middle of a hot track where cars are still moving at speeds that can not just injure but kill. And in a flash, that is exactly what happened. A family prepares to bury their child, and the life of a champion athlete is changed forever. Let us separate some truth from the inaccuracies here. Pleasure to welcome into MidPoint veteran NASCAR reporter and columnist, now read at his website, prolific author, and also the man who penned a book about Tony Stewart entitled Rebel with a Cause, a season with NASCAR star Tony Stewart. Monte Dutton joins us on the show today. Monte, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me. Yeah.
Monte, let's again try to separate some of the inaccuracies that are going on here. And certainly I think the first thing is many news outlets are reporting this as a NASCAR problem. This is not a NASCAR problem. It was not at a NASCAR track. And there are so many things here, I think, that are certainly being over-reported and overhyped. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, as a matter of fact, my first impression, which may be detrimental in this electronic age, is to sort of try to get my head straight and wrap around an issue and think about it and write when I have some conclusion, as opposed to just, sort of the excited, everything that can come along, this is what I heard, blah, blah, blah. It took me a while to come to grips with it because I know Tony Stewart pretty well. I think I really know his strengths and weaknesses. And it's just that the hysterical note of it, for instance, one of the first news items said that the unfortunate Kevin Ward Jr., who lost his life, that when he was hit by Stewart's car, he was thrown 50 yards through the air. Well, at some point, rather than just getting some excited fan to say something lurid, someone has to pass judgment and say that's impossible. And so the whole item, and then it was just, I stayed up like many people and couldn't sleep Saturday night watching all these things come across on social media, and I felt like someone had to set the record straight.
Let's set the record straight. Unfortunately, we only have about a minute left right here in the fact that this will affect Tony Stewart, and he was not trying to injure this young man.
What my guess is as everyone has noted, Kevin Ward was wearing a black suit and he came across the track. A sprint car has wings on the side, a lot of roll cage. It's difficult to see out other than the direction you're headed. They don't even have mirrors in them. My guess is it was a reflex action. Is when the guy came, Tony saw this guy approaching, and he gunned the car to get away. And it also could be that it could have been that Ward was excited and slipped or moved into it. Anyway, he got clipped by the rear end tire. It was a terrible, terrible thing, and it shouldn't. We need to have all kinds of sympathy, but I think it's sort of absurd to suggest that Stewart intentionally ran into him or was trying to scare him or something like that. I think people put more into it than a person's reflexes allow.
Absolutely. Well put. Monte Dutton, I know we've only had a short time. Thank you so much again, my friend, for joining us. All the best, and we'll talk again soon.
You're welcome.
All right. It certainly is something where there needs to be some fact. And now let's focus on a unique place in America. This one where many people still go to this day, and they remember the Titanic Memorial in Washington.
Women and children first. The orderly commands given that fateful April day in 1912 as the RMS Titanic began to sink after hitting an iceberg. Hours later, over 1,500 passengers and crew had perished in the chilly North Atlantic. The Titanic's sinking is well known, but few know of the permanent reminder of this infamous tragedy that stands not far from the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Weeks after the Titanic disaster, a group of American women organized the Titanic Memorial Committee. Soon, women all across the nation tirelessly collected $1 at a time from grief-stricken Americans who admired the heroism of the brave men who voluntarily gave up their lifeboat seats. First Lady Helen Taft is said to have donated the very first dollar for construction of the memorial. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, of the prominent Vanderbilt family, designed the striking 13-foot-tall male figure with arms outstretched. Carved by Boston sculptor John Horrigan in 1918 from Rhode Island granite, the statue was finally erected in 1930 after 20 years of quarreling over where to put it. Today, it stands overlooking the Potomac River on Washington's waterfront. An inscription reads, "To the brave men who perished in the wreck of the Titanic, they gave their lives that women and children might be saved." The Titanic Memorial stands as a monument to the perished and the sacrifice of those who gallantly stepped aside so others would live. For Newsmax TV, I'm Lucy Celia, and this is An American Place.